long, an average 50 miles wide, 1/4 of the world's fresh water. This was the blue jewel of Siberia. It was 1988, a year after my Bering Strait swim, which had opened the border between the United States and the Soviet Union. I wanted to swim Lake Baikal. I had no idea how much the Soviets appreciated my Bering Strait crossing or the upcoming Lake Baikal swim until we landed in Moscow and later in Siberia. There were crowds and press everywhere, and people recognized us on the streets. We were told when we reached Irkutsk that the Siberians had been waiting for a group of famous Americans to visit them ever since the time of President Eisenhower. They had constructed new roads for his visit and a new hotel. But when the U-2 incident occurred, when the U.S. spy plane piloted by Gary Powers was shot down over the Soviet Union in 1960, President Eisenhower was no longer welcome. The relations between the United States and the Soviet Union disintegrated, and the Cold War grew colder and grimmer. But our Soviet hosts told us things had changed. We were the group of Americans that the Siberians had long been waiting for. Our Siberian officials arranged tours of cities, took us to basketball games and other special events, and feted us at dinners and church celebrations. After flying through 13 time zones and 2 days of constant motion, we were weary, and my focus needed to be on the upcoming swim, planning it out, figuring out the currents, and talking to the local pilot so we could work together. I would be swimming in 3 days. That wasn't much time to recover or figure out the course of a swim. Early one morning, before anyone was awake, I slipped out a back door and went for a long walk along Lake Baikal's shores. I climbed down some boulders to the Angara River. This was the only river that flowed out of the lake, and here the currents were strong. The water flowed fast, probably 3 or 4 knots. I studied the movement of the water as it flowed along the shore. It was like one massive drain out of a swimming pool. If we got caught in that, we'd move out with the river. We would need to keep a distance of a mile or 2, or I'd never make it across the lake. A Siberian woman with high Slavic cheekbones and tanned skin, probably in her 70s, wearing a bright scarf on her head, a blue jacket, and a skirt well below her knees, scrambled across a 1/4 mile of river rocks. She stood up excitedly and waved. Holding her hand was a young man who looked like her son. He was taller and leaner, but he had the same blue eyes, the same nose, and the same shaped smile. When they reached me, she was barely out of breath. She immediately said that she had been waiting for me. Her son translated my English for her. He had studied it in school as a child, and he had never used it before to speak to an American. He was thrilled. The elderly woman said she had a dream the night before that we would meet on the Angara River. She was so excited. Her blue eyes were full of light. She told me that I was welcome there. And then she said something I didn't understand. She said that I was like George Washington DeLong, an American hero to all of Siberia. I had never heard of George Washington DeLong before. I was perplexed. Maybe I misunderstood. Did she maybe mean to say George Washington? I asked. No, Captain George Washington DeLong. Hadn't I heard of him? The man translated. He seemed very disappointed. But his mother put on a smile and said that I was welcome there, and welcome to join them any time at their home. With all that happened during the next days, and all the political challenges, and the swim across Lake Baikal, which was moved up a day and was completely successful, I forgot this conversation. It faded deep into memory. But one day when I was reading about Roald Amundsen, drawing inspiration from his life and from the lives of other polar explorers, I kept seeing references to a ship called Jeanette.